This is KamehaRadio, a Dragon Ball podcast. We are your hosts, Alex and David. David, how are you doing today, buddy?
Doing pretty good. It's been a good weekend. Had a 3-day weekend, so gotta go back to work tomorrow.
We're all dreading that day. Yeah.
All the Monday blues, or was it the Sunday blues, or is it the Monday blues? Maybe both.
Could be both. The Sunday, you're dreading what's going to come, and then Monday, it's like, oh, it's already here. So
it's like Saturday, I'm like, happy-go-lucky, and then as soon as I wake up Sunday, it's just depression
like,
sets in.
Yeah, this is life now.
Winter's coming, so it's
the White Walkers are coming.
Yes.
No, man,
Winter's
we don't even have Dragon Glass, man. Like, what are we even gonna do? What are we gonna do against the White Walkers without Dragon Glass? Oh man. Anyway, so today's episode, we're gonna have some extra talking points, but obviously the forefront of the conversation is going to be episode 3 of Daima, released on Friday. Do you want to just get right into the episode this week?
Yeah, why not? I just watched it today. I didn't get to watch it on Friday. When did you watch it?
I watched it Friday. So
Friday? Oh, okay. I would say best episode so far.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. This is it's before we get in. The whole time I was watching the episode, I just got I got a whole Han Solo vibe from
I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, Glorio gives major Han Solo vibes.
He even got Han Solo pants on,
and he's got the vest. Like he's got the vest. He's got his trusty shooter at his hip. And he basically smuggled people in to the demon world.
Yeah.
So
he is Han Solo.
He is the Han Solo of Dragon Ball. It's great.
I honestly didn't think I was gonna like that character for some reason. I was just looking at the previews and stuff. I was like, this guy is just gonna be underwhelming and not very good. But I'm liking him a lot so far.
Well, I think too, the past couple episodes, we only saw him very briefly in episode 1, and then last episode he had maybe 5 lines of dialogue. So it wasn't like there wasn't really anything to go off of here. But now in this episode, there's this level of mystery behind him. We don't have all the information about this guy, and he's keeping some things to himself. At least at least that's the vibe I got. So there's this level of mystery surrounding him that I think really makes him an interesting character.
And I hope for when the dub comes out, because I really like the Japanese voice actor for this guy, for Glorio.
Yeah,
because he has that deep voice that it's very authoritative, and I hope that the dub can kind of match that.
No, the dub's gonna come out and he's gonna be like, "Hi, how you doing?" Hi, how are you? No, I think, usually the dub, when it comes to Dragon Ball and picking the right voice actors for the characters, I think the Toei does a decent job, or Funimation, I guess, does a decent job of hiring the appropriate person. I was a little skeptical with Gamma 1 and 2 in Superhero, but I thought they did it splendidly. They made both their voices go ahead.
They got some Demon Slayer voice actors in there, so it's anytime there's a Demon Slayer dub voice actor in anything, that's automatically in.
Yeah, Gamma 2 is Hawks, and he's Hawks, and he's a great voice actor. I think his name is Zeno Robinson, I think is his name. I could be wrong there. People can correct me if I'm wrong there. I think that's the voice actor for Hawks.
Yeah, and what's the doctor's name again?
The doctor in Superhero?
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't remember his name. I'm drawing a big blank.
He's Tanjiro from Demon Slayer, so I was like,
okay, yeah.
Immediately liked him.
Yeah, so I think they'll do fine with the dubbing. I was a little skeptical going into this episode. I was thinking about the dub specifically, and I was like, I'm hoping to God that they get some I'm hoping to God that they put a little action in this episode, because if they're airing the first 3 episodes of the dub in theaters and there's not even like an episode of action to kind of culminate the like ending to it, like I feel like that'd be a little disappointing to see.
Yeah.
But obviously we got exactly what I think it needed to justify the theatrical release.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it ended on a good point for that.
But let's
What did you-
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say let's jump into what happened in this episode.
Yeah. So we opened up with Glorio and the crew going to the warp point. Was it the warp point? That was a new a new
Oh
thing
yeah,
in there.
to Warp Sama.
To warp Sama. And he's the guy, they get there and he's like a goldfish. He's like, I'm not a goldfish.
By the way, Goku was a menace in this episode. Like he has no sense of boundaries, or like he can't read the situation in any like particular like instance that he's in this episode. Like he just says whatever comes to the top of his head.
It's very GT Kid Goku like too, in my opinion.
It's very OG Dragon Ball in that sense as well. Like OG Dragon Ball, like Grandpa Gohan did not do that great of a job actually, like raising Goku as a kid.
Well, he killed him, didn't he?
Well, I mean, like he taught him how to be like respectful and stuff, but at the same time, like I don't think he really like honed in on like his vernacular. Like the first time in OG Dragon Ball, like he ran into Bulma, and like she was like trying to like, she's like, oh, he's like a 12-year-old boy, like I need to get the Dragon Ball from him. So she like showed his panties, and he's like, why would I want to look at your your fanny? like that, like that's like the kind of vibe that I get from Goku and Daima right now. Like he just reverted back to his old OG Dragon Ball days. But like Grandpa Gohan failed him in that in that he doesn't, like he taught him how to be respectful when it comes to maybe like master pupil, but I think when it comes to like treating people in society, I think he kind of failed him on that front.
Nobody's a perfect parent, right?
No one's a perfect parent. You do what you can, especially with an alien monkey boy. Like this kind of goes against the norm. So but yeah, they go and meet up with Warp Sama, and the Demon World put like really strict like sanctions in terms of like how you can like how you get in and go out. Like you need like a pin code.
Yeah, well, they mentioned that used to not be like that, because Supreme Kai said like, well, we never used to have to need a pin code before, or have to have a permission to go into the Demon World. So I wonder what like transpired, that they need permission and a pin code to get in there. And even so, when they get in there and they're in like that rally point, and there's 3 different demon realms that they can go to.
Yeah, we learned that there was like there's 3 different, not planes of existence, but like worlds within it. And there's like there's like an interesting like hierarchy. Like the first demon world is for like people of like the monarchy of the like where the Demon King and like all of his subordinates and people in positions of power like are there. And then you have the second demon world, which is more so for which we find out is where like Shin comes from and Kibito come from. They come from the second world, and they're a bit like more sophisticated, more high society type individuals. And then the third one, which is where they're going to, is like, you know, bottom of the barrel, the what would be the like not like middle to low class like society.
Yeah.
And so like, and they were trying to like go to, they were like, why don't we just go to like the first world instead, like that's where Goma is. And Gloria was like, no, we only got access to go through the third, so we're gonna have to make our way there, because it's not an adventure without it, right?
Exactly. So they get in there, and I like the onion volcanoes.
Yeah, I'm curious how like that even like works. Like,
yeah,
like is it like a zit where like it like kind of just sits like in its a little mini isolated volcano until like it builds up and then it just explodes and then lets it go? Like I got like Sandland vibes from the third demon world.
Yeah, I can see that.
I can see a lot of like inspiration from Sandland being thrown into like what the desolate like area of the third demon realm kind of is. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, it makes sense because Sandland got its video game, it's got its trading card game, it got its anime and its movie and stuff. So like obviously that had to have been fresh in Toriyama's mind for him to want to like kind of ingrain that into Dragon Ball as well. But
yeah. But so we find out that the air is heavy. Goku gets out, and when we kind of get our first look at some combat scenes, I was worried there for a minute when the arrows were flying, and it was really slow, and I was like, oh god. But they mentioned how heavy the air was, and I was like, okay, that's just in world stuff, so it's not like that's gonna be the dynamic going forward. It's really slow.
I'm more concerned for like those tribal characters in terms of like what were like because the arrows were moving in slow motion, so it's like, do they not how do they not understand that that's how it works, and they're still resorting to bow and arrows? Like is it like the people that the things and the people that they hunt, like they're also heavily resisted by the heavy air?
I would assume so.
That's like normal for them.
I would assume so.
I would think the only way to like make sense of that would be that like obviously Goku is an oddity. He's not from there. And so he's like, even if he is slowed to a degree, like he's still faster than the arrows because of his experience with fighting and stuff like that. But I would imagine that like normal things would be like would have gotten hit by those arrows in the demon realm there.
Yeah, probably. But then Glorio pulls out his hand cannon and it just blows away the mountain. I was like, what is he gonna do with that thing? It has more power than I thought.
And he's fast too. Like he's well adapted to the air disruption.
Yeah, well, he lives there, so I'm assuming he's probably pretty used to it.
I guess it would depend on like, is the air heavy in the first and second worlds too, as opposed to or is it like just the third that like has that like air, that discrepancy?
We'll have to find out. What'd you think of the light barriers between the tunnels to the other demon realms?
I mean, it just goes to show that whoever was in power, Deborah or even Goma, like what at some point or whenever the sanctions of things really like kind of hit, it just goes to show that they are really like trying to keep things in control, keep everybody in their place.
My prediction is it was Deborah's father that started all this. I feel like he was the one that probably created this monarch or dictatorship order, or like very just isolationism of the demon realm.
Yeah,
kind of.
Because I mean, that's as far back as we can go, and we in terms of like that hierarchy in that family line. And we don't really know like how old Deborah was in like Z. So like he could have been he could be hundreds or thousands of years old, and then on top of with his father being hundreds or thousands of years old too. Like who knows?
Yeah.
So like in terms of how we know that Neva is thousands of years old. So he was the creator of the Dragon Balls in the demon realm. So it's safe to say that like at the very least, like this could potentially go back thousands of years. But I mean, it's all part of the mystery, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
before we go into that, one more thing. We do know that light was not there in the pin codes and everything, and the restrictions to go in and out weren't there when Shin was a kid.
Yeah.
So between when when he left and then to now, that's when things kind of started to get.
But Shin, I think, is thousands of years old too.
Yeah, he's pretty old.
Yeah, like he, despite his appearance, like in the Buu saga, he definitely was like really old compared to everybody else. And especially knowing like what happens in Moro and stuff, like all those Supreme Kais and stuff, like were like thousands of years old, millennia old.
Hey, wait a minute. what about the old Kai?
The one that
Shouldn't
was
he shouldn't he be younger too?
um the one stuck in the Z sword.
The Z Sword, yeah, he helped with Boo. Shouldn't he be youthful?
I mean, he's old. He's a lot older than Shin. So
Well, they when they made the wish to make everybody's children again who helped in defeating Majin Buu, he played a pretty pivotal role in that. So shouldn't he be a kid too?
I think honestly, I think the wish probably only affected everybody. Like, I think it only affected like everybody that was like together in that moment, like on Earth.
I don't know.
Because like old Kai wasn't there, so old Kai, but like old Kai didn't really fight Boo. Like he was on the planet of the Kais, but he wasn't fighting Boo.
Neither did Master Roshi.
Yeah, but he got absorbed by Boo.
Yeah.
So I mean,
saying, he had a more pivotal role in getting Gohan to unlock his inner power to be able to fight.
We don't need to worry about that. Toriyama didn't care enough to inflect on it, so we don't really we don't got to worry about it.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I actually like how we learned more. We learned more about Shin in this episode than I think we ever had before. Like we actually like learned like what race the Supreme Kais actually are.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what
the Glind. The
Glind, yeah. So like, yeah, we learned like that they came from the second demon world. They are its own race. They're not Kais. We refer to them as Kais because obviously, because it's probably like, just honorifics that's kind of like given to them because of their position. But they're not these otherworldly beings like we kind of thought they were. They're kind of lowly mortals just like everybody else. Which and then obviously like there was a lot of like conversation talking about there was like a lot of back and forth between Shin and Glorio talking about you can't, your lord, your king told you to come and pick us up. And like he was asking questions, trying to get answers out of Glorio, and Glorio was kind of being really like dismissive.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was sitting there and he was talking about, well, why are you like, I think he was like, well, you like, why were you in like the first demon realm to begin with? Like why, like how are you there if you're from here, if your king's here? He's like, what did you do at the palace? And he's like, oh, it's this or that. Like he didn't even give like straight answers whatsoever.
Yeah. Very dismissive.
So I think we're gonna learn a lot more about Glorio, probably sooner rather than later. I feel like probably before the halfway mark of the series, I would imagine that we would finally get an understanding of like who Glorio is, what his backstory is, and like what he actually is doing at the palace. In that first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, for all we know, like this third demon king, like might not even really exist. Like maybe he is somebody from the first palace or from the first world. And like, obviously he has his own, like agenda in terms of like what, like how he sees how the world should be, maybe.
Yeah.
You may not know, and you may not know about this, but, you know who Glorio kind of looks like a little bit?
Crow?
Like
from Destiny?
Oh, no. From Destiny?
That's what
no, he looks like Mira from Dragon Ball Xenoverse.
Never played that. So
yeah, he's in the MMO in Korea that was made, Dragon Ball Online. Like Toriyama made two characters that as like the main villains. It was Mira and Toa. Toa was a sorceress and was Deborah's sister. And she created like her own like demon android in Mira, and Mira has the white hair on top. He has the blue skin. Glorio kind of gives me like that vibe. I don't think there's any relation because obviously Mira and Toa in Xenoverse and Dragon Ball Online's not canon.
Yeah.
And this could be Toriyama taking an old design from a character he created and putting it into canon for all we know. Could be his way of like making Mira canon in some way, but
or he was just like, I don't feel like creating a new character. Let me just
could be
here and
but yeah, I'm curious to see more about Glorio and see what's his deal.
Yeah, it'll be good to see the next episode what happens. But we got the theatrical one comes out what next month?
The theatrical
15th?
release of the 3 episodes?
Yeah, it's what, the 15th or 12th or something like that?
The 10th to the 12th, I think.
Okay.
It's like a Sunday to a Tuesday for us. It's just a weird time frame to release that, but
right.
Like I think like in the past, like when they did like those kinds of releases for like the movies, I'm pretty sure it was always like might have been like a Thursday to a Saturday or something. Like Sunday to Tuesday just feels weird.
Yeah. We gotta work.
Like, man, the only day you're really gonna give us is Sunday. Okay, cool. I mean, it's like just under 2 hours, so it's like it wouldn't be any longer than like a movie.
Yeah.
But I guess it would be a matter of like how would they present it? Like, is it going to be like, oh, we're going to do episode 1 and then break and then come back, then episode 2 break and then come back episode 3, or is it going to be one long running stint?
Yeah. We'll see.
Then what happened next? They
went to the town after they killed the bandit. I don't think they killed the bandits. It might have. We don't know what happened to them, but they went to the town because they were going to stay the night before they head over to the castle. So, and this is when I really started to like Glorio. He's for the badass he is. When they were overcharging him for the room, and he's like, "Oh hell no!" It's like, "Look at my gun. See this gun? You see this gun?"
And he freaked out too, like that. Yeah. Like it was almost like, "Oh, that's not an ordinary gun. Like that's from something."
Yeah.
This guy has status or something like that. I don't know. I'm surprised like Goku or Shin didn't say something about how aggressive he was being to that teller.
Well, I was thinking the same thing, but then like it panned over to Goku, who was very distracted by something very simple.
I mean, yeah, so that's Goku. Yeah, that's that's him to a T. But Shin though was like eyes on him, like he was watching them the whole time. Like I'm surprised he didn't say something.
It's probably because it's his world. He knows how it goes, and so he's just kind of maybe keeping eyes.
Because I mean, he had a bit of a fuss when Gohan and Goku got up in his face and stuff during the Majin Buu arc, and we know that like Shin's not the type of person that's like going to let stuff like that go, like the whole Majin Vegeta thing. Like he got in the way of that. And was like, I'm not gonna let you get. He's like, you would kill me just to settle your grudge with each other, and
yeah, I feel like that's a little more extreme than I guess than that.
So I don't know, but yeah, they but then obviously they didn't get their hotel room. Goku was hungry because he's always hungry, and then so they went to go grab.
No, they got the rooms.
They got the rooms, but they didn't go to the rooms. They went straight to get food.
They went to this food. And that's where I think probably the best part of the episode was. When they were eating those weird burgers, and then all the patrons started trying to fight him because he didn't have pointy ears. I liked the combat. The combat was great because it kind of reminded me of almost like a karate samurai type of movie, like when the way he was dealing with the plates and very
it's kind of like Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan style of choreography, using their environment around them to actually help them in combat. I thought was really cool too. Yeah.
I think that's what kind of was like. Oh, that's really cool.
And
You
he-
don't really see
yeah.
that much in Dragon Ball because it's mostly just punches and ki blasts and teleportate and like after image
Yeah.
strikes.
Like it like I don't know if you remember watching a show growing up as a kid, Jackie Chan Adventures.
Yeah.
Like it reminds me of that because Jackie
Yeah.
Chan in Jackie Chan Adventures, Jackie always like used like items around him as like means to like help him in his fight and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So like I definitely got like Jackie Chan vibes in that whole fight. The animation was great too. Like it was so seamless and smooth the entire time. You can really tell that the artists that did like the storyboarding and stuff like that, they really like kind of took their time to make sure that this was animated properly. And that's a whole level of appreciation that I think was really kind of missing in like a lot of Super in the beginning.
Yeah.
So like the fact that they got like, 2-3 years of like post-production or whatever it is to kind of get that animation down pat, really well done by the animation department in that regard.
Definitely.
What kind of going back to the people pointing out that he didn't have pointy ears, and going back to the earlier part of the episode, Shin just having magic to be able to shift Goku's ears to pointy ears in front of Warp was like interesting. Like I didn't think he had that kind of like magic in him. But then again, we haven't really seen. Yeah. Again, we learned a lot about Shin this episode because there's just so many things that he's doing in this show that we never even got to even see in like Buu Saga. So, yeah, I mean it's like it's.
You think you would try to keep it that way in order not to stand out, like instead of just doing it in front of Warp.
Yeah,
that he would just keep him.
You would think with that, with that fish's big eyes, that he'd be able to see everything, but supposedly not. Is it weird to say that like I actually am really like liking Shin in this series so far?
No, I think he's definitely one of the main focus points of this show. So I think they're building his character up pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's just funny that like Shin as a character in like Buu Saga, like I didn't care like much at all about him whatsoever. He was interesting for like the first like couple episodes that he was introduced, and then he became rather pointless really quickly. So
yeah.
So like for me, it was like I didn't really like care all that much. And like Super, they kind of like expanded on him in Super and making him like a dyad with Beerus. But like that was really the extent of what we got from Shin in that. Like yeah, he's connected to Beerus. If one dies, the other dies, and then he helped out against Zamasu with the earrings, and then that was really like all he did. But now it's like, okay, now we're gonna actually make him a character, and I wish it was done a little bit sooner than how we got him now. But like, yeah, like he's actually to me he feels like he's like a really compelling character for once, and I'm hoping that. Is it weird that I kind of want to see Shin fight? Like we know he can fight.
Yeah.
We know that he has at least some like fighting experience, or like he has to be, because I mean, if all the other Supreme Kais before him knew how to do it, then he shouldn't be able to know how to fight too.
I mean, he did fight Buu, didn't he? Like back in like way back when Buu first got created.
Against Bibbidi, yeah.
Yeah, because he was a Supreme Kai of the East back then, East Quadrant, or is he East Quadrant now? I don't remember.
Either.
Yeah, I think he did fight Buu, and then because he was the one that
he was the only. Yeah, he was the only one that survived in that fight. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it'll be interesting to actually see him like fight, though. I wonder if he has like a different fighting style than like what Goku has and stuff. Like I'm picturing Shin, and I'm thinking of like how Zamasu fought Goku.
Yeah.
Like I'm wondering if it's more I don't know what the style itself would necessarily be. because I think that fighting style is more like what how like Tien fights. Like Tien fights like with like open hands, whereas like instead of like clenched fists.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. So yeah, I find it funny in the bar scene too that like Goku he's like, well, I just ate, so like I can't be all that hungry, but then he asked for like 5 hamburgers.
Yeah.
and then like Glorio's like, what do you want, Supreme Kai? And they're like, just waters. And it's like okay, 5 hamburgers and 2 waters. It's like it's only Goku's gonna eat.
Yep.
And
That's
then
typical.
yeah. And then after fighting, he was still hungry and he got another hamburger.
Yep.
So it's like,
Yep.
It
looked like a nasty burger from SpongeBob.
the nasty patty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did find it actually kind of funny that Goku was like, what kind of meat is this made out of? And Gloria was like, you don't want to ask.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about it.
And he didn't. It's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, easy-minded Goku. So, but yeah, the fight scene was really good. We didn't really learn. I don't think we really learned a whole lot in that fight in that bar scene. I don't think there was any additional information they really gave us. But then, so after the fight scene, they went back to their ship because then they were going to, or no, did they go back to their room and then back to the ship in the morning, or how did I forget?
They went back to the room, and in normal Goku style, he hogs up half the bed, and he's always like spread out, and like his foot was on Shin, and Shin just like at the edge of the bed.
Yeah, and then they went back to the ship in the morning, and like yeah, some of the patrons from the bar swiped their ship, so now they're kind of stranded.
Yep, and that's where episode 3 ends.
And that was where it ended. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that episode was actually like really good. Not as much world building as the first 2 episodes, but I think we got shoveled with world building and lore and stuff in the first 2 episodes. So I think we could allow ourselves to kind of like take a step back from that and kind of just get to a more grounded Dragon Ball episode.
I think it was world building in the fact that we got to see the different realm of the demon world and kind of the visual aspect and kind of how kind of things are done there. As far as can't go between this tunnel, this third realm has heavy air. Just
yeah, we learned the different realms and what the hierarchy and within each realm is. Yeah. We learned about like like what kind of happens. Like we've learned a little bit of like the background of the third demon world. And like I can't really say if every town that they're going to visit is going to be like the one that they were just in, but like that was kind of like a maybe there was just like a lot of like Star Wars like feel to this episode, because obviously Glorio's Han Solo, and then where they went to was like the bar in Mos Eisley.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Basically,
it's a desert.
It's a desert, Tatooine. It's I think maybe there was some Star Wars inspiration thrown into this series to an extent.
With George Lucas.
That would be the most involved George Lucas has been in anything like in recent years. That would actually be really cool if that ended up like happening, like Akira Toriyama reaching out to another big creative like that for like inspiration. But I don't think it happened that way.
That'd be like mixing water and oil, though. It's like two completely different franchises.
I feel like George Lucas comes off to me as the kind of guy that's like he's very passionate about his own projects. So like he would be like throwing every little bit of like info and lore and stuff at Akira Toriyama's face, and then Akira Toriyama would just be like, dude, I just want to draw.
But
like,
not too much.
Yeah, like he would just be like if he were to like make like Anakin, like if George Lucas came to Toriyama and was like, here, he's like, here, Anakin is like a slave child that, you know, like wins in a pod race, gets discovered that he has high midichlorian counts, and then high midichlorian counts, and then like he trains to go off to be a Jedi, and like tells all of Anakin's backstory and whatnot. And then Toriyama is just like, okay, it's like, okay, Anakin, he's a boy, he likes racing. He's a little too attached to his mother. There's his character. Like, I don't think their work philosophies, I don't think, would mix too well.
No,
Probably not. But no, yeah, good episode. I liked it.
We should see. We shall see how the next one is.
The only thing we know about next episode is that we're going to be introduced, I guess, to that potentially that female character, like in the in the openers and closers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I don't know if you feel the same way. Like when you know how like halfway through the episode they have like the little cut scene.
Oh yeah, the little cutaway in and out of the episode.
Like the music in that like gave me like 90s kind of like cartoon vibes. Not like it, or like
yeah. I mean
not like Cartoon Network or like Nickelodeon. It's more like how would I explain? Maybe more 80s.
Well, I mean, in OG Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, and I think in GT too, like during that whole era of Dragon Ball, like they had those like mid-episode like cutaways. And so like it was cool to see the mid-episode cutaway, just because that kind of took me back to like watching all of those shows like growing up. The animation style, I mean it was in line with like everything else. The theme song is fit. The theme for that cutaway also fit like the intro and the outro. And I mean, I think that's probably like the biggest reason why I'm liking Daima as much as I am, is just because it seems so fluid. Like everything is like flowing at a really like satisfying way. Like it's not terribly out, like it's not weirdly paced. All of like the soundtrack and stuff is like very uniform and kind of like they're all like related to one another. It all feels like it's one like culmination of project in one. And I think that's probably like my biggest like takeaway with the show so far, is just it's a very like structured, uniform show, which is something that I think Dragon Ball really needed, since Super was not that way.
I know a lot of people are complaining about the look of like Goku, or like more specifically, I saw something where it's like they put Dragon Ball Z adult Goku against Daima adult Goku, and Daima Goku's so much slimmer, and they're like they gave him a camel toe, because I guess like they gave him like, I guess the way his uniform is put on, it looks like he has a camel toe or something like that. And people are.
Well, I mean, if Vegeta is always going to have a bulge, then I mean, we might as well give Goku like the exact opposite, you know? Like, no, those people, I mean, you like what you like, right? Like it's like you can have like a certain preference in terms of how like these characters should be designed. And I mean, it really is like hard to step away from like the bulky aesthetic of like what Z was. Like it's like that's what really like made that show for a lot of people. A lot of like people that are into fitness and like sports and stuff like that, like got fit because of Dragon Ball Z. Yeah. So I mean, I understand like wanting to like kind of go back to that standard. I get it. But at the exact same time, like that was a whole couple decades ago. This is like the late 80s. And like there is no anime out today that even resembles anything close to what characters looked like back then.
I don't even think in Super Goku is that as buff as he like they made him look in Z.
No, like it's just the art direction of how it is now. It's like bright. I don't want to necessarily say brighter colors, but like it's a wider color palette. More vibrant tone put into like its colors. You have a lot more like exterior outline of like character models and stuff like that. Of like like it's really prevalent in like My Hero Academia. Like you can really see like the outline of like a character's face and like their hair and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, like it's just
Now I see a lot of like posts of like they take super animation and then they kind of turn it into like how DBZ was animated, like drawn.
yeah.
Like, would you rather have like if you could, would you have that original like take super and make it in Daima and make it into Z art form?
Uh on one hand, I wouldn't be. I would like that, just because it's so nostalgic, right? It's a very nostalgic sign. But then, if you were to do that, then think of all of the amazing Tournament of Power scenes that we got in Super,
Yeah.
and like all of the hard work that some of those amazing artists put the time and effort into like making in that Tournament of Power arc. We wouldn't get any of that, and I don't know if it would hit the exact same way.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Like
maybe
I have no problem with super animation or Daima animation. And I hate the posts that people put out. It's like when they take the Super Saiyan 3 Goku picture from the Janemba movie where
Mhm.
he's like it's immaculate looking, and then they have like the Super Saiyan 3 panned out Goku where it looks like he's just a little dot eyes and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
Just-
like it's like people like, yeah, you like the thing is like the way that they do animation now is so different now too, because back in the day like they did like had animation cells. They would literally like each individual scene was individually like painted out, and then it was like layered on top, and like
yeah.
almost like a picture book, like they flipped it
Hmm.
in a way. I think it's, you could look at like any like Disney documentary, and like they show you like the actual process in terms of taking like a cell of an individually drawn like scene or frame in that particular thing, and like how they layer that to get the final product. Like you can go back and watch any of those. Whereas now like a lot of stuff is done, like, not saying that stuff isn't done it by hand, but like a lot of it can be done digitally now. And it's again, it's just a changing of the times. Like it's like things have just adapted and evolved in a way that make it different. Now, kind of going back to your question though, for me anyway, that whole aesthetic of like the Z era of animation, the animation was one thing, but for me growing up, it was like the Z animation with like the Falconer soundtrack.
Hmm.
And I think that was like really what cemented like that era of like Z for me, of Dragon Ball for me, was the fact that you had that Bruce Falconer, even if Bruce Falconer was a plagiarist as people say he is, and I don't know the entire ins and outs of that controversy, but that was what made Dragon Ball Z for me, watching it growing up. So I feel like if you were to take that animation style and just swap it with like what happened in Super, or with the Super animation style, but you kept that same soundtrack, I don't think it would have the same feel at all. I think you would have to bring back something akin to that Falconer era of soundtrack in order to really like encapsulate that feel. Or even not even like the Falconer soundtrack, but like you can like take the original orchestration and stuff from like the Ocean dub and like how they did in the Japanese version, to really like build that up. But I feel like that's like half of it too. Like I feel like if you took the Falconer soundtrack away and like the original score away, and you put it in with like the Super era of the soundtrack and orchestration and stuff, I don't think it would have the exact same vibe. I think it would be a completely different show, just based off of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my thoughts on it though.
I'm obviously not as in tuned to all the ins and outs of it as you are, but I feel like kind of what you said, it's a nostalgia thing, and I think that's what people kind of want to fall back to the most, is they want to be reminded of Z and everything else, because that's what when they were kids or whatever growing up with it, like that's what kind of got them hyped up, so they want to keep that going. And then people aren't attuned aren't very attuned to changing things. So like what we naturally hate change, right? So
Yeah.
anything that's gonna get changed, people are gonna have a lot of issues with. But I don't have any issues
Yeah.
with like the animation process.
And I think a lot
how-
of it too is like based for nostalgia. It's also like, you know, we want to go back to a simpler time. Like we were kids when, you know, Dragon Ball came out. It's what we got into. Like that was like our routine. We got out of school, we came home, did our homework, and then we literally laid ourselves out in front of the TV and watched Toonami for the 4-hour block before we had to go to bed later that night. And that was like our routine. Like we had a very simple routine growing up. And now we're all adults. We've all evolved and grown, and the world is not what we thought it was going to be when we were younger. I don't think I don't want to bring too much of the real world into this conversation, but like we were not raised in a way to really, I think, prepare ourselves for the world to a certain degree. And so a lot of the nostalgia aspect of like wanting to go back to that, I think, is just more so that like we saw Z because it was we see Z now as it was then, and we want to go back to that because things were simpler. We had a better understanding of things that were going on, and it just wasn't like as it's not as like involved. Like I think people just I think people just want an escapism, and I think like when they think escapism, we just go back to things from our youth, and I mean, that's a lot more prevalent now than it was for like people in the generation before us. Like people in the generation before us don't look back on their youth and like ever really return to their youth and like the things they were interested in as kids. Whereas like now, I think like our generation, I think, is kind of like that's more of a crux for us.
No, my dad's very much into all the old cartoons and old black and white shows from when he was a kid. It's constant. Leave It to Beaver, Jetsons, all that. So he's very much in.
Oh, and I'm not saying that's not the case for the prior generation. I'm saying that like it's not as prevalent with the prior generation. Like my stepdad still goes back and watches Howdy Doody from when he was growing up, but like he doesn't go back and like watch the Flintstones. He doesn't go back and watch like the Jetsons and all of that stuff growing up. Like I think cartoons were a lot more like prevalent thing for us than it was for the prior generation because there was more of it for us. It was more of a distraction, I think, for us than anything else.
Well, the funny thing is like these people complain about like the animation's getting so fake and stuff like that, but like they only
what does that even mean?
Like
it doesn't
maybe not fake, but like low budget or lazy. They say that with things like Dragon Ball Z, but when you have another, like take Demon Slayer for example in UFO Studios, completely different animation. Like it's super high budget, super high class. Everyone loves it. But I guarantee if you put that animation in Dragon Ball, people would hate it.
Probably, yeah. And I mean, Dragon Ball's always been like stylistic. Like every single iteration of it has always like looked different from like its previous iteration. Like GT looks nothing like Z.
No.
And like you could tell like Z looks nothing like OG Dragon Ball. So it's like I think Dragon Ball has always been one of those series that like has just evolved with the times, and
it's always changed.
And a lot of that comes from Akira Toriyama's like actual like drawing style, his particular style and his approach to drawing. Because when it came to like Kid Goku, and all of those characters when they were like youthful, like the muscle outlining of like their arms and stuff like that was very soft and very rounded. And then like one thing that like he got a lot of pushback on growing up was like, okay, like the main character, like the main character, like as the years go on in the show, like he's getting older. He's getting like more like he's obviously filling out into like the person he's supposed to be. So like even like Kid Goku, like he went from like having like really like chubby bulky arms like in the very beginning to having like more tone to it, but not like still kind of like bubbly in that sense.
Yeah.
And then when it got to the time for like the 23rd Budokai Tenkaichi, he made that directive choice to, well, I'm just gonna age him up now. And I remember reading the story that like a lot of like his staff was actually against them aging up Goku because they figured like, you know, they've known Goku all this time as being this young plucky boy that was into like martial arts and stuff like that, but like he had a different direction for how he wanted to do that. And honestly, part of it too was like part of the Akira Toriyama like laziness of it. The reason that he even aged him up was because the intricacies of the fights were getting a bit more involved, and having Goku having short stubby arms in every fight wasn't going to actually do really well in translating to the actual fights itself. So he aged him up just because it was going to make it easier to actually choreograph the fights better. So at least that was my understanding of it. But Dragon Ball has always been one of those shows that's like ever evolved. And again, people can have their you know, preferences in terms of animation, but I think what they're doing with Daima, I think fits the style of Dragon Ball just fine. I don't have any issues with it.
Yeah, I like the style of Daima. It's different and it's working out. And I think the way they are doing the combat and stuff with it meshes really well with it. So I have zero complaints about it.
What are your thoughts on, I guess there's a lot of talks of like Super Saiyan 4 potentially being like reintroduced into Daima. What are your thoughts on that? Since we're talking about aesthetic choices.
I like Super Saiyan 4 a lot. I think in order for them to bring that in, they'd have to do a lot of workarounds and a lot of like I don't know if it would work. Just because of what we have set up in Super.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been brought up. It's never been because it wasn't canon. So they definitely went a whole different direction from GT. So I don't know. I don't think it would. I think there would be a big hole.
The only way,
as much as I love Super Saiyan 4, I don't think it would fit.
I'm going into the series thinking that we're not going to see anything like that personally. I like Super Saiyan 4 as much as the next person. It's one of the only aspects of GT that I really like. And I'm in the same mindset of you. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think there's really a way that you can really make that happen. The only way that I can see it even being a thing at all would be because they introduced white magic and like black magic, right? They talked about light magic, dark magic. And I was talking with my brother about it because I was telling him about the show, and he made the suggestion. He said, like, what if with this implementation of like light magic and dark magic, what if Super Saiyan 4 is something that can only be done by like taking in like the dark magic within the demon realm, and so it's only accessible to Saiyans in the demon realm. We know Saiyans are potentially from the demon realm to an extent. And there's like a lot of discussion about because like remember like the Saiyans used to be like evil. They used to be like really bad like people. So like there's some theories that are like circulating that like Saiyans may have originated from the demon world initially, but they were like the evil Saiyans, and then like Yamoshi or whatever, the god of the original Super Saiyan god or whatever, was one of the.
He's not even canon though. right?
I think he is canon. I think he was mentioned by Toriyama. We just don't know. We haven't seen what he is visually. We know he's canon because of Battle of Gods.
But did they give him by name? Did they name him?
I think Toriyama gave him the name. I don't think it was ever mentioned in universe, like in the actual show, but Toriyama gave him a name, I think. So I think until something is said otherwise in the show, we can go off of what Toriyama said.
Mm-hmm.
My whole mindset though with that is that like maybe Yamoshi, the Super Saiyan God, maybe he's like a hybrid of some sort. Like maybe he's a hybrid of whatever came from the demon world and settled on planet Vegeta, and then whatever the Saiyans were in our universe or in Universe 7. Maybe like Yamoshi was a hybrid, and the only reason he's able to achieve those types of transformations is because he's a hybrid. Because if you look at like the Ozaru form, like they have pointy ears too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that they're when they're like in their base forms, like they're rounded human like ears, but when they transform into Ozaru, they have the pointy ears. So maybe the Ozaru forms, maybe the Ozaru form is Demon Realm based. It's a possibility.
A theory.
I mean, this is all stretching, by the way. This is why I'm saying like it's probably not going to happen. I don't see Super Saiyan 4 coming in. But if that is the direction they end up going with it, and they try to reintroduce it, I think that's the only way they can make it work. Is that it's strictly something that can only be obtained in the Demon Realm, and it's due to some sort of infusion with dark magic, black magic of some sort, and then because it's only available in the Demon Realm. Obviously, that's why they don't use it in Super. That's why they don't use it in the manga.
I could see that the only way of them being able to use that transformation would be in the Demon Realm, but it would have to look. I'm pretty sure it would have to look different than GT Super Saiyan 4. I don't think it would be the same type of look.
Yeah,
I think it would be something different.
I doubt it would even be called Super Saiyan 4 at that point either. Yeah. It would probably be called like Super Saiyan Demon or something like that. Yeah. Something really simple. Which that would be fine with me. I always hated the naming convention of like, oh, Super Saiyan 1, 2, 3. I always thought that was like extremely lazy to kind of do about it. And at least like this is
to go even farther beyond.
What's he doing? I abhor that video.
You did it, Goku.
But I mean, I always like the naming convention of like God, Blue, Ultra Instinct, Ultra Ego, Beast. Like the fact that we're just stemming away from like the number convention and the color convention, like I think is good. I think having like something that's distinctly named because of its features rather than.
I do think they should have made Vegeta's evolution Royal Blue. I think they dropped the ball
on Blue Evolution.
Yeah, I think it should have been Royal Blue.
I hate that that's only like anime canon. Like that's not in the manga.
Oh, is it not manga canon?
Nope, it's anime canon.
Wow, didn't know that.
So it's and I also like and I hated it too in Super because there were two things that I hated about it. One, it came out of nowhere with no build up whatsoever. The only thing that I can even akin it to is that like it's almost like Vegeta went Super Saiyan Blue, but then which is just God Ki on top of Super Saiyan form. But he basically went ascended Super Saiyan to achieve that form because you could see like he looks bulkier in that form than he did too. So like to me that kind of came off as like a callback to like the Cell Saga.
Yeah.
But even then, like that might not have even been what it was, like because there's no explanation behind it. And then the other aspect that I hated of it too was like the animation, the particle effects for that transformation really blurred out what it actually looked like a lot. So like you couldn't even get a really good look of like what that form looked like, and I hated that. But what can you do?
Yep.
They were doing things. They had to keep things interesting week to week. So it was
yeah, they were. From what I remember, they were very like that whole Tournament of Power was rushed because they were trying to drop an episode every week, and they had to make the episode every week, so it was very rushed.
I have to give a lot of props to that production team because they had to release a brand new episode. They had maybe 6 weeks to plan for the airing of like Super. Which is why the animation in those early episodes were really bad, was because they were rushed to get that out.
They went back and fixed all that though, didn't they?
Yeah, in the in like the Blu-ray cuts and stuff like that, they fixed a lot of it. But I have to give the production crew like a lot of props because the fact that they were able to do what they did week by week by week for 3 years with no break whatsoever, like kudos to them. I don't know how you can do an active series like that with the time constraints that they have and have it actually come out to be like a feasible product at the end of it. Like, throw all those early episodes out like to the side because like obviously like there were time constraints and they were restricted on polish in that. But like those, like some of the latter like Zamasu, Goku Black arc like stuff was really good looking. All of the Tournament of Power looked fantastic. With some really like key moments that really stood out. And like the fact that they were able to put that kind of polish, like just doing that like week by week by week. Like I don't know any other animation team for any project or any IP whatsoever is able to like replicate that.
Yeah.
Like good on them.
Definitely.
So do you want to talk about Fusion World stuff now that the full card leaks have released?
Let's, if you're okay with it, save that for the next episode.
Okay.
I might have to cut this short a little bit because I have to run and do something real quick, but I definitely want to, I think we should dedicate a whole episode to that, maybe. Just to go over a lot of the archetypes and a lot of the cards and stuff like that. I think give it the attention it deserves.
Yeah, we could do that, and I can see if we can maybe get like a special guest or something on with us.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool.
And we can just strictly talk Fusion World. So we'll figure that out. But yeah, if that's the case, then this will be the end of our third episode, everybody. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. We are currently in the process of trying to get the podcast up on iTunes and Spotify. I was able to figure out, I was able to fix some of the issues that I had prior to being able to do that. So now that it's been fixed, I should be able to get that done sooner rather than later. It's just a matter of figuring out how to get that done. But soon. But next episode, I think we'll dedicate the whole episode to Fusion World. And then episode 5, we'll jump in and we'll do a double feature for Daima. We'll talk about episodes 4 and 5, and go from there. But yeah, kind of break up the monotony of the day to day.
Yeah,
kind of go from there. I think if anything, maybe next episode we still watch the episode, but I think maybe we'll just give general thoughts as opposed to like a breakdown of what happened before we go into like Fusion World stuff.
Fine with that.
But yeah, that's gonna do it, guys. So thank you guys for listening in. Do appreciate you all, and we'll see you guys all in the next episode of KamehaRadio, a Dragon Ball podcast.
See ya.
Peace.